The old house loomed over Alex, its Victorian grandeur a stark contrast to the sunny day. He shivered, sensing something amiss. Mrs. Grayson, the landlady, showed him around, her gaze lingering on a particular door at the end of the hallway. "That room," she said, her voice a hushed rasp, "is locked. Never go in there." Alex nodded, intrigued. Later, unpacking his things, he heard the first whisper. It was faint, a rustling sigh that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. He shook his head, dismissing it as the creaking of an old house. As days turned into nights, the whispers grew stronger, accompanied by an unnatural chill. Alex would wake to the feeling of icy breath on his face. The room plunged into an unnatural darkness. He began to dread the night, the oppressive silence broken only by the unsettling noises. He tried to question Mrs. Grayson, but she refused to speak about the locked room. Her fear, palpable and raw, only served to fuel Alex's curiosity. He became obsessed, determined to uncover the secrets hidden behind that forbidden door. The door was ancient, its dark wood warped and scarred with time. An ornate lock, tarnished with age, secured it firmly. Alex found himself drawn to it, compelled by an unseen force. He would stand before it, listening intently, trying to decipher the whispers that seemed to emanate from its very core. One afternoon, while exploring the attic, he stumbled upon an old chest, tucked away in a dusty corner. Inside, beneath layers of moth-eaten fabric, he discovered a key. It was heavy, ornately crafted and fit perfectly into the lock on the forbidden door. His heart pounded in his chest. Logic screamed at him to leave it be, to forget about the whispers and the chilling drafts. But curiosity, a powerful and dangerous force, had taken root within him. That night, armed with the key, he stood before the door. The whispers were louder now, almost pleading. He could feel the icy breath on his skin, the air thick with anticipation. With a deep breath, he inserted the key and turned. Sleep offered no escape. Each night the whispers grew louder, morphing into chilling screams that echoed in his ears long after he woke up, drenched in a cold sweat. The shadows in his room seemed to writhe and twist, taking on menacing shapes that danced at the edge of his vision. He paced his room, battling the urge to unlock the door. What was he even hoping to find? A rational part of him screamed at him to leave, to find another place to stay. But the whispers held him captive, binding him to the house and its terrifying secrets. One night he woke to an icy hand gripping his ankle. He shot up in bed, his heart pounding, but there was nothing there. Only the cold spot on the sheets and the lingering feeling of dread confirmed that it had been no mere nightmare. Driven by fear and morbid curiosity, Alex knew he couldn't ignore this any longer. He had to face the source of the disturbances, the entity that haunted his waking hours and invaded his sleep. The key felt strangely warm in his hand, as if imbued with a life of its own. It pulsed with an energy that both terrified and compelled him. He knew that what he was about to do was reckless, possibly deadly. But a strange sense of urgency, a need to confront the unknown, overwhelmed his fear. He had found the key during a period of intense curiosity. The attic, with its dusty relics and forgotten memories, had always called to him. The chest, tucked away under a pile of discarded paintings, had seemed almost deliberately placed. As he lifted the lid, a musty smell, like that of a long-sealed tomb, wafted out, sending a shiver down his spine. The key lay nestled in faded velvet, gleaming faintly in the dim light. It was as if the house itself had offered him the means to unlock its secrets. The decision to use the key was not a conscious one. It felt more like an instinct, a pull towards the darkness that he was powerless to resist. His hand trembled as he reached for the door handle, his mind a whirlwind of dread and anticipation. Section 5. A chilling discovery. The door creaked open, releasing a gust of stale, frigid air that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. The room was shrouded in darkness, the only light emanating from the hallway behind him. He stepped inside, the floorboards groaning ominously beneath his weight. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he made out the shape of a rocking chair, its back to him, swaying gently as if propelled by an unseen hand. A chill, more profound than any he had felt before, washed over him, raising goosebumps on his arms. He took another step, his heart pounding against his ribs. The air grew thick, heavy with a palpable sense of dread. It felt like an unseen entity was watching him, its presence suffocating, malevolent. As he moved further into the room, his foot brushed against something solid. He looked down to see a human skull, its empty socket staring up at him with silent accusation. Terror, raw and primal, surged through him. He was in over his head, trapped in a nightmare of his own making. The rocking chair stopped abruptly. A cold dread, like icy claws gripping his heart, froze Alex in his tracks. He stood there paralyzed as a long, drawn-out moan echoed through the room. Slowly, almost reluctantly, the figure in the rocking chair turned. It was a shadowy silhouette, human-shaped but devoid of features, its edges blurring and shifting in the dim light. 2 pinpoints of crimson light burned where its eyes should have been, piercing him with their malevolent gaze. The moan came again, closer this time, a sound of unimaginable suffering and rage. Alex stumbled back, his mind reeling. He wanted to scream, to run, but his legs refused to obey. He was rooted to the spot, trapped in the unrelenting stare of the shadowy figure. The temperature plummeted, the air growing thick and oppressive, making it difficult to breathe. The stench of decay, heavy and cloying, filled his nostrils, triggering a primal fear within him. This was no ordinary haunting. This was something ancient, something evil, and it had set its sights on him. Panic seized Alex, constricting his throat, stealing his breath. He backed away, tripping over the skull, his hand frantically searching for the doorknob. But the door, once yielding, was now immovable, as if sealed shut by an unseen force. The shadowy figure rose from the rocking chair, its form elongating, stretching towards him with unnatural speed. The red eyes burned brighter, their intensity searing into his soul. He was trapped, alone with a malevolent entity in the suffocating darkness. Desperately, he threw himself against the door, pounding on the wood, but it wouldn't budge. He was a prisoner in this cursed room, at the mercy of whatever evil lurked within. A cold, skeletal hand closed around his wrist, its grip vice-like, inescapable. The touch sent a jolt of pure terror through him, his blood turning to ice in his veins. He thrashed against the grip, but it was no use. He was being dragged inexorably towards the shadowy figure. As the shadowy figure dragged him closer, Alex's eyes fell upon a strange marking on the floor. It was a circle, drawn in what appeared to be dried blood, surrounding a symbol he couldn't quite make out. A surge of adrenaline, a last-ditch hope for survival, coursed through him. He twisted his body, using the momentum of the shadowy figure's pull to propel himself towards the circle. It was a desperate gamble, a slim chance in the face of overwhelming terror. With a final burst of strength, he hurled himself into the center of the circle, landing hard on the cold, unforgiving floor. As he scrambled to his feet, he felt a surge of energy coursing through him, a protective barrier separating him from the shadowy figure. The shadowy figure recoiled as if burned, its form flickering and distorting. It let out an ear-splitting shriek, a sound of pure rage and frustration, as it paced the perimeter of the circle, unable to cross the invisible barrier. Alex had stumbled upon a sanctuary, a temporary reprieve from the clutches of the malevolent entity. Trapped within the circle, Alex watched as the shadowy figure raged, its frustration palpable. He had stumbled upon a safe haven, but he knew it wouldn't last. The energy of the circle, the power that held the entity at bay, felt tenuous, fading with each passing moment. He had to escape, to break free from the curse that held this room captive. But how? His gaze fell upon the symbol at the center of the circle. It was ancient, etched into the floorboards, its meaning unclear. Could this be the key? As the shadowy figure lunged again, its clawed hand reaching across the boundary, Alex reached out and touched the symbol. A jolt of energy surged through him, throwing him backwards. The room spun, the air crackling with power. When Alex opened his eyes, he was lying in the hallway outside the room. The door was open, the room empty. The shadowy figure was gone, banished for now, but the chilling cold remained, a constant reminder of the unbroken curse that lingered within the silent room, waiting to claim its next victim.